Bible teaches us that the altar is where God met with man. The altar is where divinity interposed with humanity. There was no altar in the Garden of Eden because there was no need for an altar in the Garden of Eden. But when man was driven out of the Garden of Eden, he was separated from God. And because there was a separation, there had to be a medium whereby man could interpose with God and God interpose with man. So God caused men to begin to build altars. Understanding makes us outstanding. This is where it all began. And I'm so proud of you, Shelene, because she was one of the psalmists that came to the conference in Los Angeles. And the conference was the voice of the altar, bringing the people back to the place called the altar. Ladies and gentlemen, the altar is the place of consecration. The altar is a place of sacrifice. It is the sacrifice that you place on the altar that gives the altar significance. An altar without a sacrifice is a dysfunctional altar. It is the sacrifice that makes the altar powerful. And then once you put the sacrifice on the altar, there must be fire to consume the sacrifice. I wish I had two people in here that are ready to come back to the altar. And so God is calling us back to the altar. And there came a time in the nation of Israel when the altar of God was broken down. When the altar of God was broken down, Baal began to rule. Jezebel began to rule. Ahab began to rule, because when the altar of God is broken down, then the voice of God is silenced. When the altar is broken down, the heavens are shut. When the altar of God is broken down, we no longer can hear from God. So when God now was silent, Jezebel began to rule. And for too long, Jezebel has ruled in the midst of the people of God. The people of God have been intimidated by the spirit of Jezebel. The people of God have been manipulated by the spirit of Jezebel. The people of God have been dominated and controlled by the spirit of Jezebel. But let me tell you something. The time of Jezebel is up, because God has raised up an Elijah generation. When Elijah the Tishbite showed up, it was a time to tell Jezebel, your reign is over. Your rule is over. You can no longer intimidate the people of God, because something is about to change. My God, Jezebel has got to die. And the word of God says that Elijah rose up in the power of God and faced Ahab. What is happening here tonight is that we have come to repair the altar of God. We have come to serve notice to every spirit of Baal, every spirit of Jezebel, every spirit of idol worship, every spirit that says that God is not the true and the living God. We have come to serve notice to every demon, every witch, every wizard, every warlock, every sorcerer, every enchanter, that this is the time when God is about to rise. I wish I had two people that can lift up their voices like a trumpet and give God a shout of praise up in here. When Jezebel reigns, the kingdom is divided. When Jezebel reigns, there is no deliverance. There is no healing. There is no joy. There's no peace. But when Elijah rose up and said, I will rebuild the altar of God so that God can meet man again, so that the voice of God can be heard again, Let me tell you, something happened. Because when you begin to rebuild the altar, you summon every spirit that has manipulated and intimidated and controlled and dominated you. Elijah was saying to those spirits, it is no longer on your terms. It is now on my terms. Oh, somebody missed that. He called the 450 prophets of Baal and he said, now it's time for you to come on my territory. Hey, I don't know who I came to talk to, but every spirit has been summoned to this altar today. The spirits of sickness, the spirits of disease, the spirits of poverty, the spirits of lack, the spirits of infirmity have been summoned to the altar, because there's going to be a slaughter of the spirits of Baal tonight. If you believe that, lift your voice and give God a shout. And Elijah repaired the altar, and he challenged the prophets of Baal, and he said, hear me, O God, hear me. Let it be known that there is a God in Israel. Let it be known that there is a God in Northern California. Let it be known that there is a God in America. Let it be known that there is a God. And he said, let it be known that we are your servants. We are not your peers. We are not your contemporaries. Let it be known that we are your servants. It's time for the church to come back to the place of servanthood. We are your servants. Let it be known. And then he said these words, and the God that answers by fire. We've built the altar. We've put the sacrifice on. Now, God, we need an answer. We need you to answer. We need you to answer. And I came to let someone know tonight that God is about to answer. I said God is about to answer. The God that answers by fire, let it be God. Answer us by fire. And his last petition at the repaired altar was, Lord, when you answer by fire, let the hearts of the people turn back to you. This altar is open, that when the true fire falls tonight, the law of the altar, Leviticus 6 and 12, let the fire on the altar never be put out. I pray that the fire on the altars of your heart will be reignited tonight, and the fire will never be put out.